Welcome back to Module 3, and here we're going to look at teacher programs. So you as a viewer or an editor have the ability to access teacher programs. So this is going to give you the view as if you were a particular teacher on your school site. So in this module, we're going to look at the teacher programs for posting final grades, which will be helpful if you have a teacher that's out on emergency leave, posting standard grades for elementary school, preferences and configurations, so you can actually get in and diagnose maybe some of the issues that are wrong in a gradebook or see the preferences that a teacher has used to set up his or her gradebook. You can look at Gradebook Assignments, which will take you down to the gradebook level view of a teacher. Gradebook Reports, every teacher has a set of built-in reports in their gradebook that they can run, and this gives you the ability to run those same reports through the lens of that particular teacher. And then lastly, web pages. So if a teacher has a web page on campus, this will allow you the ability to look at that teacher's web page. So here we are at our portal, and we want to access teacher programs within the gradebook. So to do this, we will go over to the Users menu. We'll click on Users. It'll open up the sub menu, and we see here we have a teacher programs that are indicated here at the bottom. So we're just going to walk through each one of these and discuss what information would be available for you within these teacher programs as a viewer or an editor. So first is the posting final grades. So here is where I can enter the teacher's post final grade screen. If I knew a teacher's name, I could enter it right there under users, or I can go ahead and hit enter, which will generate a list of all the teachers on campus. And I can select a teacher. And here we have these teachers posted final grade screen. All right. So here's where I can go back as an editor and change data if I need to with the teacher's consent. But here we have their post-final grade screen. The course that's chosen is up here. So I could cycle through these financial algebra courses versus Algebra 2 and see what the post-final grade screen was here. I can make any edits if necessary. If it's a student who you need to add grades for that is just withdrawn a couple days before the end of the marking period, you can include inactive students, which will open up. They'll be grayed out, and you can see your inactive students here along this line, and that's where we could enter a transfer grade for them. I see along the top here, if I was interested in semester 1 exam, post-final grade screens for this teacher, I still have inactive students selected, so I'm going to unselect those. So here's where we have the percent grades for the exams. Or the semester 1 average, which requires the applying the calculated quarter and semester exam averages from Q1, Q2, and the semester 1 exam, in this case at a 40-40-20 calculation. So here's where we can access all that information. If a teacher was out, say, on emergency leave, and you had to go in and enter exam grades, this is how you would do that. So I would go to Users, I would go to Post Final Grades, I would search for my user, who I know is out on leave. I could click their name, and here is where I can enter any assignment data. Chose a teacher that didn't have a course assignment, so let me go back and do that again. We're going to pick that teacher, and here's where I could go in and I could use the Gradebook Grades for that teacher, which would take it and insert it as a posted final grade for that teacher. The next teacher program we're going to look at is posting standards grades. Okay, so this would be for elementary principals and viewers out there. So if we're posting standard grades, we could click on that and the screen would look just the same as it does for that. We pick a user, and I'm in a secondary environment right now, but here's where you would have the post-final grade screens for or post standards grades, pardon me, for your teacher. So we could go in and add those descriptors in there for that teacher who may or may not have been out on leave, or if you just want to kind of go in and see what the standards grades are for a particular class, you could do that. Moving on to the users, I'm going to go ahead to preferences. So this is going to select the gradebook preferences a teacher has set up, and we're just going to review what those preferences are within their gradebook. So they can change, a teacher can change the student listing and how they're displayed. They can also rename the course along here if they want to. So instead of saying financial algebra, they might want to say period 1. They could go ahead and enter and change that in there. Remember, if you're in here as an editor, you do have the edit ability within the gradebooks. I wouldn't go around changing names of courses because you are truly editing the teacher's gradebook when you're in here. Some of the things that we look at here, one of the things that's often missed and you might want to talk about early on in the year is configuring the gradebook separately for each section. So if I don't do that, let's say I teach 6 algebra courses, then I wouldn't want that box selected because my schema is the same in all of my classes. And when I create an assignment for my first period, I also give it to my second, third, fifth, sixth, etc. So, but if I had different schema, I weighted one course and I didn't weight another, or I wanted to apply a different schema across those, I could check this button. And if I did, it would require me to set up each of my gradebooks separately in that scenario. And we also have the combined sections for gradebooks. This is a one-way trip when you select that in there. So you get this little warning menu, but you can create custom gradebooks by period. So the example I give here is if I teach band first period, and in band I have band students 1, 2, 3, 4, percussion 1, 2, 3, 4, trombone 1, 2, 3, 4. I can go ahead and say, hey, you know what? All my kids get the same assignment when they come to me in band first period. I just kind of differentiate it for the different levels and grade them maybe on a different rubric. I could combine the sections of the gradebook, so I had all of those students in one drop down on the side, and I could rename that combined band. This way I don't have to switch through 20 gradebooks every time I give an assignment. The other is creating custom groups, which creates buckets, if you will. So I can add a group, and maybe I'll give you the example here. Maybe I'm an art teacher, and I teach drawing, and I teach sculpture, all in the same day. So I really don't care when I see that student, pardon me, I don't care when I see that student in the day, if I have drawing for me first period or second period or third period, all my drawing kids get the same assignment and all my sculpture kids get their same assignment. So I can draw a bubble around all my drawing 1 students that I see throughout the day and put them in one gradebook. So I can go ahead and assign grades to my drawing students and my sculpture students, even though I have a mixed batch of them throughout the day. And then in order to do that, then the person can just drag the course and sections in here and drop the kids into these little buckets that are there. And then they would click save. Now that trip is one way for the teacher. So if they combine their gradebooks and later choose to uncombine their gradebooks, it's a one-way trip. They will lose assignment data if they uncombine their gradebooks after they're combined. Continuing on with teacher programs, you can look at a teacher's gradebook configuration. So this is how they have their score rounding set up. Do they weight their grades in assignment categories? And they want to add all assignments to each section of your course by default. So that's if I want to create an assignment in Algebra 1 and have that be all the way across all the algebra courses I teach, I would want to select that preference. Display percentages, these are all just kind of choices on how a teacher wants their gradebook to display. The other is a teacher can choose to enter student numbers in the gradebook. So if I'm putting in textbooks and textbook numbers in there, it will just open up a column in my gradebook where I can add those data. I can also create student groups. So if I have my lowest 25 and my gifted students, and I want to give assignment to my accelerated students that I don't want anyone else to see, I could create gradebook groups and assign it to lowest 25, etc. Now, students don't see that grouping, so you can call it the lowest 25 if you want, and those students wouldn't necessarily know that they're in that particular group. Teachers also have the ability to set grade colors, so maybe I would highlight my D's and F's within a grade book. And so that's what we have when we get into teacher configurations. If I click save here, that would save those configuration changes for that teacher. Going down this menu, we're going to look at Gradebook Assignments. So this is a little bit of a misnomer. This is a Gradebook Assignment categories. So it's called Gradebook Assignments, but we're really talking about the assignment categories. So it has a teacher created categories such as homework and tests and quizzes and labs, and then one, they can create categories. They can also take created categories and add weight to those categories, as we see here. So the teacher has weighted their gradebook with 50% on assessments and 50% on the practice. So that's how they've chosen to weight that particular gradebook. Gradebooks must align to 100% all the categories. And if not, the teachers will receive a warning message here, and there'll be a warning message in the gradebook because your gradebook categories must equal 100%. Moving on the teacher programs, we have Gradebook Grades. So this is going to take me to the view of the teacher's gradebook.
And notice that we switched narrators here, but we're viewing a teacher here, and I can choose the class with this drop down here. And this is the gradebook. So we have the student names, the grade level, and the grade for this particular marking period. So I'm viewing fall term 2. And then we have the assignments, and the categories at the top are highlighted based on what the teacher chose to highlight the different categories. And then we have the assignments with the grades. If we look at this grade book, we can see this teacher used some special symbols to enter the different symbols. If we hover over the asterisks, we can see what the built-in symbols stand for and their values. We can also see some little footnotes next to some of the grades. So teachers can add footnotes to the grades. And so, for example, if you have 504 accommodations provided, that's one of the footnotes. So if I double click this grade, it opens up they call it the comments box, their little footnotes. So we could choose what comment you want to add to this particular assignment. We can also choose to highlight this grade, and that is beneficial for running the highlighted grade report, so we can print those specifically. It's great if you have an IEP meeting or something like that. Another thing we see on the gradebook is the bubbles that identify students. So we have ESC identification, we have e-learner identification, 504 identification. We can also see a little notepad next to the student. So if I were to click this one and notice it says fell asleep in class, I can make this public or private. So public means the parent will see it, parent and student will see it. If I make it private, only the teacher and the administrators can see it. You can print or export this whole gradebook. This is the export button up here. Export it to Excel. Make sure though this option right here says show first 9 assignments, because if it says show all assignments, you're not viewing all assignments and you won't capture all of the assignments in your export. If you wanted to print, you can click print down at the bottom of the screen. Moving over here, we can see that teachers can enter grades by points, percent, questions correct, questions incorrect, or just enter a letter grade. If we want to view students that are inactive, in other words, they were in the class, they withdrew, then we can check this box here and it will highlight any dropped student in gray, and obviously this class doesn't have one, but that's what that feature does there. You might also notice a little Google Classroom button next to some assignments. That means the teacher has chosen to link that assignment to Google Classroom and bring their grades in through Google Classroom. If the teacher has chosen to add a test, it is highly advisable that school editors not even click on the information and go into this, because you can cause it to disconnect from the online test that was assigned. We can also see for the assignments, we can see the name of the assignment, the points, the questions, if the questions are chosen, entered, when it was assigned and when it was due. And then notice here also for this Chapter 5 test, the teacher has chosen to exclude the test from certain students. When they choose to do that, the student and or the parent will not even see that assignment on their portal. So if we click Add Assignment, the teacher adds assignment and the title and the points are what are required. The rest are all optional, but they're very important options. So the teacher can choose to enter the amount of questions on the test, because they can choose to score by questions correct or incorrect. They can come back, they can auto-fill grades if they choose to. So if all students scored 100% or 2 points or whatever their value is, they can enter it here. They can choose their category from the category list. If they're going to link it to a Google Classroom assignment, they would choose the assignment here once they link the class to their Google Classroom. They can choose which classes they want to add the assignment to. Here's a description. It's super important for teachers to add as much information as possible. This way parents and students have all the information they need. This field can hold quite a bit. The assign date should be accurate. It just helps with communication with parents and students as to when the assignment was assigned. The assignment due, again, should be accurate. It just helps with that communication. The publish date is kind of important, and I would recommend leaving it as is, because if the teacher chooses to publish an assignment far off, then the parent doesn't know it's coming up, or the student doesn't know it's coming up. And that's the whole idea about using the system for communication with parents. So if you enter an assignment that's due in 3 weeks, go ahead and publish it now so parents and students can see it coming and know what to expect. Also, if you don't publish now and you enter grades, the average will change, but the parent and student won't know why their average changed, because they can't see the grade. So down here, the teacher can choose to select a file to upload. So if they have a worksheet they want students to complete, they can come in here, choose the worksheet. It attaches it as a PDF. If they made a mistake, they can click the minus sign to delete it. If they check this box here, it allows students to upload the assignment back to them. We can choose here to not allow late submissions. Here's where we can hide from excluded. So if you check this box, you can enter an asterisk as the grade, and it will exclude that grade from that student's. And then you can choose to exclude from average. So if you do an formative assessment, or for example, you want to use the online test feature to give your semester exam, and the semester exam doesn't get included in the gradebook average, you can exclude from the average. You can also choose a prerequisite assignment to be completed before completing this one. So I'm just going to click cancel here and go back to the gradebook.
I can go over here to users. We have Gradebook Reports. So these are the reports that a teacher has available to them within the gradebook. For the teachers when they're in their gradebook. I'll show you that. I'll go back here. I just went to Gradebook Grades. I'm selecting that teacher. Now we're in their gradebook. But up here in the corner is where they have access to all of these reports. But maybe it might be helpful for you to print through those or look through those as well. And I'm going to show you how you can gain access to a teacher's individual gradebook reports. So we go to users and we go to Gradebook Reports. And here I have the teacher selected. If I didn't have a teacher selected, I would come up with a user list. I could hit enter, or I could type in a teacher's name, and then I can select that teacher. Now I'm into their Gradebook Reports. And here's the section up here, the course and section information in the period for which gradebook I'm in to generate the reports. So we can look at grade breakdown graphs. So teachers have the ability to look at their distribution of A's, B's, C, D's, F's, and no grades. They can look at a missing grade report. You see here we find no missing grades. We can show courses, no missing grades, because remember before a teacher finalizes their posted final grades, there can be no assignment values that are blank within the gradebook. But what's nice is the teacher can come here to this missing grades report, show all courses, and all of the little holes out there in the gradebook would be displayed here for them. And they can actually go in and add the data right on this report, and it would go and backfill the gradebook. A teacher can look at failing grades, how many failing assignment grades there were, and they're sorted here alphabetically by student. But if I wanted to sort them by date, I could just click any one of these column headings and it will reorder it in here. So if I wanted to sort by last name, get sort by last name. So here are all the Fs that were issued in the gradebook. In this case, I've selected the second 9 weeks. We look at extra credit grades. So this is a helpful report sometimes too. One, it'll pull up any time that a student's earned more than the point value. In the old grade book, if you put in 1,000 points and miskeyed in an extra 0, the system would give you a warning and say, hey, you're about to add 1,000 points to this assignment. It's only supposed to be 100. Are you sure you want to do that? And you can say, oh my gosh, no, I made a mistake. Or you can say, yeah, that's what I intended. And it would note it in there. Focus does not do that. So I could key in 1,000 or 10,000 accidentally, and it would just go ahead and recalculate the grade. Now, this is a place I could come to see if I've made any of those extra credits that shouldn't have been. And I'll tell you one, if you didn't notice, the student's average probably go up to about a 384%. You'd probably notice the miskey right away. But if not, you would come to this report and just double check that if you've awarded any additional points than the assignment was worth, they would be displayed on this list here. Highlighted grades. This was that highlighted grades report. So if I had checked the box when I added a footnote when I was documenting accommodations, any of those assignments that I clicked the highlighted grade for would appear here on a list. We can look at excused grades. So here's where the teacher has given an excluded grade for the student. Custom grades. So these are any of the district-defined grading symbols like not turned in, exempt, absent and 0, absent and excused, those not turned in, all those special grading symbols would appear here. The teacher can run a report. Transferred students. So I'm going to search all sections here for the student so the teacher can see any transferred students. And here are students that have transferred into this teacher's class. If they click on the student, it will tell them the grade, what class they came from, and the grade that they earned before they got to me. In this case, this class was dropped for the student. Progress reports are these would be great for a parent conference, or if I'm going to sit down with Johnny's mom and I kind of want to get an idea of what's going on in all the classes. I could use this to search, and it would create a progress report built into Focus. I could print it for all the classes, so this would be helpful in an elementary. So I could get the ELA, the math, the science grade all on one progress report. Might spill over to an extra page or so, but I could get all the data. I could print only totals. I could include gradebook notes and the summary and the assignment descriptions in there. I could also use this to create a missing assignments or failing assignments or excused assignment report. If I've created student groups, which we'll cover later on, I could run a progress report for all my freshman athletes, etc. I can also include inactive students. So I'm just going to go ahead and include some of these. If I hit continue, it's going to ask me to choose a student. I could pick all of them if I wanted to run a progress report for every kid in this class, or I could just pick one kid and I could print. And it will generate a progress report with the criteria that I put in here. So here's financial algebra. Here are all the assignments and the 13 practice assignments. I asked it to put in absence information as well. And so here I chose to print all classes. So here you can go and see, here's now I have the second course that the student's taking, the fifth course, and I have all their assignment data right there. So really helpful if I wanted to print out this information for a kiddo that I might be have on my radar. All right, so moving back to cover a couple more. I could use this to also print a blank grade book. If I had a substitute teacher coming in for a couple days, I could use it to print a blank grade book for them. The gradebook audit trail is also exists for teachers as well. So this will show them anytime an assignment has been changed here in the gradebook, and it will indicate whether the grade went up or down once it's been created. Or if another user changes a grade for the teacher, it'll tell them which user changed data within their gradebook. So here's a neat report called Student Participation, which is a neat graphic that will show you what level of participation the student has exhibited. Or you can look at their assignments and then their grades on those assignments as well across the gradebook. Deleted assignments. This is for anyone who's accidentally deleted an assignment. They can restore the assignment to their gradebook here, or you can help them out through this view on teacher programs. So that's a quick walkthrough of teacher programs, which we access by going to the user menu, and then here's your list of teacher programs, which remember are your lenses into the teacher's world in the gradebook.